JB and Bill, this is Triple M's Rush Hour. Round 17 is almost done. One more game tonight, and Damo's in the studio.
Wrapping up the weekend of footy.
Get Purple in here and discuss footy.
This is Damo's recovery session.
Nice to see you, Purple.
Hello, Jim. Hello, Bill. And good to have you. You're both back.
All right, now.
G'day, Purple.
I know, Bill's
I'll do it, Jim.
wanting
You
to go.
shut up.
So, well, before you get into, I know you've got something craft work that you're going to go with here. Is it a concern for our game, Purple? As I look down the games played so far, I know there's one coming tonight, that only one team in the 8 games has passed 100 points.
Yeah, that is a big
Only
concern.
Fremantle against Hawthorn have got the score to over 100 points in a game of footy.
And even on that occasion, Jim, that is the first time under Justin Longmuir's coaching that the Dockers have managed to reach the 3 figures. It is. So some people shoot it back.
15 other teams have not got to 100.
But, Jim, I look at it, and you call as many games as anyone. The way the coaches set up to play the game of footy these days, they almost... The scoring becomes secondary in the first 15 minutes.
No doubt.
Would you agree with that?
100%.
So I don't know what rules you can implement to change that mindset. And as such, they can introduce 1,000 more rules, and it won't change what you're just describing here.
All right, anyway, Bill, go with what you've got.
Well, I know you like to start positive, Damo, but we're going to go upset Sundays. I sat there yesterday. I couldn't believe it. Can you believe the Suns beat the Giants?
No.
And then Sydney defeated the Dogs. And then Collingwood, Collingwood defeated Richmond, who I think are about 14th on the ladder now. They have dropped right down. What's going on, Damian?
It's incredible, isn't it? And in that order too, Bill. And look, I could see the Bulldogs losing to the Swans, but I wasn't brave enough to pick them.
That's not as big a surprise for me as the other two.
I wasn't brave enough to pick them. Having said all that, but
because really good contested sides get the Bulldogs, and it's got to start being a concern for Luke Beveridge for me. When they come up against Richmond earlier in the year when they were up and about, Melbourne got hold of them. Now Sydney, teams that are really hard at the footy in coalface, just get them.
They do, and teams that can use the ball with precision like the Swans did yesterday also expose them. And I'm still prepared, though, for what it's worth, guys, to coming out of this round 17 match of for the Bulldogs, that Aaron Norton out of that team, it just changed everything. It saw Jamara Ugle-Hagan play his first game, and he had one of those nilly games. He brought the ball to ground once, Bill, where Caleb Daniel capitalised and kicked a goal. He had another couple of little handballs that were okay, but ultimately it wasn't anything like what Aaron Norton would provide for that club in that position. So I reckon once they get him back, Bill, they straighten up, and as such they can go into their own forward 50 with conviction they weren't able to yesterday.
8 contested marks to 20, so that he would almost get half of that again himself. So he's a massive out, and I'm with you. I don't think it's time for the warning bells to sound, but there is a certain style of team that gets them. I reckon if you look at the way other teams play against the Dogs, Richmond and Collingwood.
That's the worry.
If you're a Collingwood fan, especially given it's been a pretty tough season for you, that's as much fun as you can have in an hour. That second hour when they came rattling home, you can't have a better fun time watching your team.
Well, even the last 18 minutes, wasn't it, when they kicked 7 goals to 1 in that last quarter? It was extraordinary to watch. And hey, they've done it a couple of times in the 2 games that Robert Harvey's been caretaker coach, but fallen short. This was different. They not just got over the line, but powered to the line. And we had a return to form of. And I know we're talking positively here for Collingwood, but we might just look on the negatives. Given Bill wanted me to head down the negative path. The Tigers situation that they finished round 17 in 12th position, having lost 4 in a row. You go back to the game before the bye, round 13 it was, Jim, over there in Perth. They were 4 goals up against West Coast with 8.5 minutes to play. Had the next 4 goals kicked against them and have not won a game of footy since, inclusive of a 2-goal match performance against St Kilda in one of those 4 losses in a row. Look, I still think they could easily beat Brisbane Lions next Friday night and breathe life back into their season. But having said that, you just can't see them going near the Premiership again.
Well, injury is starting to rack up against them too, and that's
they got Jack Revolt's 300th game too this week.
You'd think that would get them back up too, wouldn't you?
You'd hope, wouldn't you?
And kicked his 700th. So it's been an incredible player. While we're on, not negatives, but you said upset Sunday, but Saturday there was a bit of that too. St Kilda did a proper number on Brisbane, didn't they?
They did. And similarly to what we just discussed there with the Bulldogs, once one of the big key forwards goes down, as happened for the Lions with Hipwood just before quarter time. And it just changed their structure. And they've been such a structure-based team. And Chris Fagan, I think, Jim, has wonderfully used Joe Daniher to this point of this season in allowing him to take some rucking work and allowing him to almost play off half-back, running forward at times. Now, I know he's been closer to goal in that structure sense, but he's been allowed to roam really high. I think they have to make a change now on the back of this structural issue with Hipwood going down. And you factor that in, Bill, obviously with what happened pre-season-wise with Cam Rayner, who they were expecting for him to hit the big heights this year. So they've now got two key players out of that forward line. At some stage, it takes a toll, doesn't it? And some stage, it takes a premiership-altering toll. I hope it's not that case for Brisbane Lions right now. But you're right, Jim. St Kilda, when we get to the positives, they deserve a lot of credit.
Well, we'll find out a bit Friday night. Yes, Fat?
Just on Joe Daniher, he's got to stop playing for free kicks and diving. He did it again on the weekend. You got to. It's
not a good look, Bill. I agree.
He's got to get that out of his game because we all love Joe Daniher. And he's good enough to mark it on his own. He's got to get that out of his game.
He was exposed badly, wasn't he, on one of those attempted free kick rorts he tried to pull? Yeah.
No, I agree. That's a very bad look. Now, I'm going to ask you about these four losing teams. I don't. The word losers not accurate. They're losing teams. Who was worse? Carlton, Hawthorn, Adelaide, or Port Adelaide? Now, I know the score. Don't worry about the scoreboard. Just in the context of what they should be presenting with, which of those four is the worst?
I'm probably going to, give me the only four options there, I'm probably going to go with Adelaide, who I think started the year without expectation, went okay in the first 5 rounds, have fallen away badly, and right now, I think there's shades of 2020 again, early stages for them. So of those four, I'd be going the Crows.
For me, Fat, because I have not much expectation of either Adelaide or Hawthorn, it's heads bobbing, Port Adelaide or Carlton. I thought they were both very, very ordinary. Port Adelaide at home, massive game to really prove themselves against a top 8 side, which they've been unable to do. I thought they were beaten badly in that game.
I'm a bit like what you just said there about expectation. I'm conditioned for that to happen with Port Adelaide now.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, have a look at what they've done this year, Jim. They just cannot beat a team around them on the ladder.
So they would have known that. Thursday night lights, everyone watching, they would home crowd, big crowd. They would have gone, right, it's time for us to step up and stand up against a top 4 side.
And they lost again to a top 4 side or a top 8 side. They cannot win. I tell you what, Melbourne, they were tough. They were good. They were very good, but they were very disappointing.
We'll get to them on the negatives.
And I did have a look at Carlton on the weekend. I saw that game.
Come on, Bill.
Early on, 1-5 at quarter time. There was 3 experienced players that missed easy goals, and then they were poor, mate. Geelong weren't that good, and Carlton were worse. They were terrible.
Well, they ended up with 5 goals, 14 as their total match score, but 3 of those goals came in the last 7 or 8 minutes when Walsh kicked 2 of them. And they were great goals, but they weren't the sort of goals that he'd be trying to kick if the game was alive.
Yeah, no, the game was dead. It was done by then. Yeah. So very disappointing, Carlton, for me.
No, they were. And Hawthorn too, the first hit out for that club with the new arrangement, Alistair Clarkson now knowing that he's not going to be there at the very least beyond 2022 and what happens between now and then, no one would claim to know 100% right now. But yeah, they weren't at all good and allowed Justin Longmuir to rack up the first century of score for himself as a coach of the Dockers.
They've got a midfield problem that they've got to address badly, Hawthorn. They get smashed around the footy, and I just think it's personnel. I mean, Warple and Mitchell are really good players. I don't know where Jago O'Meara's at, whether his body's not allowing him to do what he should be doing. But outside, they don't bat very deep, Bill, at all. And they got belted in there.
It was a shocking game, actually. There was a couple of hard games to watch, and that was one of them especially. But, yeah, Freo were good, but I don't know where the Hawks are at. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. What happens there? Clarko, he wants to keep winning and trying to win, and then Sam Mitchell will want to bring in some kids, won't they? Won't he, Damo? It's going to be
interesting. And they've done that with the drafting and then the playing of Newcombe. So I suppose there's an element of that already taking place.
Bramble and a few of the other kids that they're throwing.
But where do you go? Where do they head now, Hawthorn?
Well, where did you have them at the start of the year, Bill?
No, and certainly bottom 4.
Yeah, and that's where they're going to finish, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
but with Clarko and Mitchell there,
yep,
that's going to be interesting. They're both going to want different
And now
policies.
Chunkworth Jath has gone down with a
he's out.
PCL,
Yeah.
which again, we haven't yet got official diagnosis on, but it could well be season ending and hopefully no more than that.
All right, let's get positive after this, Fat. You've
Yes.
taken us down negative street, old creamy.
Good.
And now we need to get positive.
It's a rush hour. Triple M. James Brayshaw, Bins Brownless. This is Triple M's rush hour. Damian Barrett is in the studio talking positives of round 17 so far.
Come on, Damo. About time you were positive.
Well, I'd
Fair
like to
dinkum,
start
mate.
positively, Bill, on Mondays, but you took us down the
did.
downer path. And now,
Well-
now I'm going to try and bring it up because we've seen a genuine Premiership tilt emerging now, and it's real, Jim and Bill.
Where?
The Swans. The Swans. We touched on before.
Genuine Premiership, you think?
Jim, they have their record against the teams around them goes like this. They have beaten Brisbane Lions, Western Bulldogs, and Geelong. They have lost to Melbourne by 9 points. They have lost to Port Adelaide by 10 points. And the team immediately below them as we speak, West Coast, they have beaten by 92. So that is as good a form line against teams that are next to them on the ladder and above them and below them as any of the top 6 teams. And I'm a buyer. I was a buyer early on. They had that little lull, but every club has at least one lull, maybe even 2, sometimes 3 in a season, even Premiership winning teams. And I saw
You
enough.
think they're Premiership winning?
I think they're Premiership winning potential.
I'm with him.
Yeah.
I'm with him.
I love what they're doing. I'm not ready to see them winning a flag.
Where do
Well,
you
like-
see them falling short at this stage?
I see them finishing 5th, 6th on the ladder. I reckon if they win a final, what Horse has done with this young group has been superb. So they're getting ticks everywhere for me. Whether if they can get into the top 4 and drag a home final, that will be huge.
They're more trustworthy than the Port Adelaide team who you just
I
potted a
agree
moment
with
ago.
that.
So
Yes.
I'm putting them into the top
Okay.
4 in that
I know.
regard. I reckon they're going to get that spot.
I hope they do because I
I'm
love
with
what
you.
they're doing.
I'm with you, Damo. I reckon they can too because they're a tough side. They can win finals. They've got a side that'll win finals. But also the hub's been great for them down here, hasn't it?
It has
They've
to this point, yeah.
They've really embraced it. They'll probably be here for the rest of the year, to be honest. So, mate, they've really embraced it. They're playing great for
They
you.
are.
I like them.
I hope that whatever happens with regards to allowances officially through the health authorities and the governments with the potential for families to come in to be with them, that's yet to be determined officially, Bill, and there's pitches being made everywhere on that front. We haven't, as we speak, got resolution on that, but I just hope they can allow families in for their sake, alongside the Giants, who are also in the same situation, and for that to take place reasonably seamlessly, because they will have to quarantine for the 14 days, you'd think. St Kilda deserves... Sorry, did you want to speak?
No,
about-
go.
I want to say St Kilda deserves massive plaudits. We criticise them heavily, and I've got no drum with what we all said, myself included, about them, because they entered the bye in a world of hurt, didn't they, Bill? At the scoreline of 5 and 8. And then you had that situation where they didn't handle the public scrutiny about them as a club over 2 players choosing family over football, but they've emerged with an amazing form line. Richmond, who they kept to just 2 goals. Collingwood, who they just played and outplayed for the entire game. And then what they did against Brisbane on the weekend just gone, to go to 8 and 8 and to give themselves a chance and to be back into that conversation that they expected to be from round 1 this year, but weren't until basically this weekend just gone.
I'm
That
not
being
arguing.
a finals contender.
That's a
they
very
have-
3 in a row. Very good.
Damo, did they have a review there?
It's been a rolling review, Bill, for what it's worth. They haven't shied away from that. It's just been an ongoing, continual, let's have a look what we're doing. They have admitted, and Brett Ratton post-match on the weekend admitted to there being some serious, tough conversations had in that bye period. And look, they've worked to this point, haven't they? It's no coincidence, though, that Rowan Marshall, strange enough, is fit again and they're firing. And he and Ryder, that combination is as good as any going around in that double whammy rack.
So
ruck.
we do the stuff at the start of the year. Everyone makes predictions, and how the hell do you know it's bloody February or March or whatever it is?
Can't even get the games right on a Sunday in round 17.
No,
Jim.
exactly. But I was asked who I thought the riser would be, Bill, who would
And?
end up in the 8. I said Fremantle. Everyone said you're a clown.
Yeah,
you got
are.
no idea. Stop. Stick to cricket. I'm telling you, Damo, I like what they are doing.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like what they're building.
And you have been saying it for a while. And now they're scoring for the first time, kicking the
Dick
100
Tracy?
points.
Dick.
Have you had a look at Dick Tracy?
Yeah.
Big boy, Bill,
boy.
charges hard at the footy. I
Josh
like
Tracy,
him.
for those who don't know him, Bill.
What's his first name?
Josh.
Josh Tracy, and it's
Josh, yeah.
Treacy. Well, it's a weird-ass Tracy, but I call him Dick Tracy.
He's from Kahuna, Jim, which is a little country town in Victoria there, dairy farmers everywhere. But he's a big boy and he presents. He's all right. He's
Bill,
good.
yeah.
And when Rory Lobb actually plucks a couple like that, they are dangerous.
If you are a halfback flanker in front of Dick Tracy and he's coming out hard, you don't want to be any.
No.
He's one of those big boys, Bill, with the sharp elbows and knees
And hard knees.
Yeah, just don't want to. Anyway, I'm not saying they're going to win the flag. I would love to see them play a final, but I just reckon Justin Longmuir and what they're doing is good, as is Essendon.
As is Essendon, yeah, and got the win against Adelaide, which I think probably most people expected, but the manner in which it came was brutal from Adelaide perspective, and they've done really well. They've had their lulls already. Their backline is emerging, the way I see 2021 unfold, as being crucial to what they're about. We saw what happened last year with Ridley, Jim.
Yep.
We've seen Mason Redmond now come in and be almost as good as him. James Stewart has always shown ability, but he's been in the system a very long time, and he's finally, I think, got some continuity to his game in a way that makes you think, gee, he's going to be really good still. Laverty, another one. Yep. Yeah. Hind, who they brought in. Francis, who's away at the moment, but not far away from returning again with personal reasons. It just looks really stable.
Agreed.
And you've still got Hurley, who we don't know now whether he comes back this year, possibly not. But even if he doesn't, he's going to be right to go, you'd think, next year as well. So there's a lot to like about that important part of the ground for that club.
And Melbourne, Fat, you touched on it before. I thought that was the best performance of the round from a team, really stamping their credentials. They were superb.
It was, because they'd had a relatively rough patch. They lost to Adelaide, believe it or not, back in round 10. Round 13, they lost to Collingwood, which was Nathan Buckley's last game.
Yep.
And then only last week against GWS in round 16, Bill, they lost by 9 points as well. So, but to then come out and just basically play with Port Adelaide the way they did, they finished the round on top of the ladder, and they deserve to be.
And Bill, the bit I loved was Oliver was unbelievable in the first half, and then they put a stop to him. And yet Melbourne was still able to gain great momentum in that third quarter with their star-on-baller held, if you like. So that's a great sign too. They don't actually
one of their star-on-ballers held.
Well, no, the other
bloke was unbelievable.
But he's a freak show, that bloke. He might be my favourite footballer to watch in the comp.
Yeah.
Because he just does freakish stuff. And, we love him. He's a rush hour man, Bill. The track.
Yeah, the track, he was unbelievable. Kicking goals also.
Yes.
He's added that to his game, hasn't he? Kicked some really good goals, finals-like game, and he just stood up. He was outstanding. Well done to Melbourne. They were tough, they were hard. What about Stewie Jew and the Suns? How good was that?
They deserve a reference quickly, don't they? Two in a row now for what they did, and had to kick the last 2 goals in the final 3.5 minutes against GWS and that windswept Ballarat, your favourite venue, Jim.
Come on.
Only second to the Geelong venue, isn't it, in your eyes? But and they'll be back there again next week. Next week with the GWS team playing the Sydney Swans. That we believe that's being speculated upon and talked about between the two clubs right now.
All right,
go,
Bill.
Tuke Miller, outstanding again. Has he had a season? He's all Australian, isn't he?
I would think so, Bill. It was as much the week before what he did in that win against the Flow. I felt that was the franking performance for him, and he continued again on the weekend.
Bloody oath he did. No doubt about that. What do you got, Jim?
Well,
You're working on something.
I'm working on something here because I think we need to celebrate, Bill. We've been celebrating the Italian performance all day, and we'll do it again at the end of the footy. Here we go.
Oh no, Jim, no.
Bill, we're celebrating.
How do they do it? Oh, that's the Russian.
Well, why are you playing this?
Because we're celebrating Italy winning Euro 21.
But why are you playing that music, Jim?
What do you mean? Because it's the Italian, when they go to weddings, they play this. Zumba.
Oh, I love it. Well done, Damo. Great seeing you.
Well
Cheers,
done, Damo.
Rush hour with JB and Bill on Triple M.
You're going to get in trouble for that, Jim.